Hello guys, and welcome to this video where I'm gonna bust some myths about living in Sweden. Okay, so for some context, I have been living in Sweden for almost 1 year. I moved to Stockholm in January 2022, and overall I absolutely love it. I have lots of videos about living in Sweden, about brunch places, the pros and cons, all of these different things. So if you want to check those out, they will be linked in the description, or you can just go to my channel and find those. But right now we're gonna bust some very popular myths about Sweden. I'm also half Swedish, so I think I know a fair bit about Sweden, the culture, living there, and the people. So the first myth that I'm gonna bust is the fact that Sweden is the happiest country, that everyone is happy. Now, obviously I don't know everyone in Sweden, and I live in Stockholm, which is not the majority of Sweden. It's a huge country. But I really don't understand where this myth came from, the fact that everyone is happy living in Sweden, because living in the city, it does not feel like that. Sweden are definitely workaholics. I feel like people are obsessed with their work in Sweden. And although they live amazing lives, especially in the city, they have gorgeous houses, apartments, and all of those things, I just don't think that people are the happiest in Sweden. I actually feel like a lot of the people in Sweden have a bit of a grass is greener mindset, and maybe they aren't totally happy with where they're at, and they're always kind of striving for more. That is just what I get from living in Stockholm. But I do imagine that the countryside in Sweden, outside of Stockholm, people might be super happy and super content with their lives. So I could be wrong, but to me this seems like a myth that everyone is happy, or that Sweden is the happiest country. And my second myth is that it's super sustainable. I don't know where this came from, but I used to think that Sweden was a really sustainable and forward-thinking country, cares about the environment and all these things, but actually that's not entirely true. I feel like there are a lot of tech companies who are in the sustainability space, and lots of brands in Sweden being born, and they are very sustainable and ethical, but I still feel like the way of life there isn't as sustainable as they make out to be, and they eat a lot of meat and dairy, like so much, it's actually insane. So I just feel like it's not the most sustainable country, but it's obviously not the worst either. It's not the most ethical country, but it's also not the worst either. But I just think I had this misconception that Sweden was a super sustainable place, when in fact it really kind of isn't. And my next myth is everyone is chatty. People are not chatty in Sweden. Maybe this was just something that I thought, but from going there every year in the summer, and when you're at your summer house and your neighbours walk past, everyone always says hi, and your mum and dad are always chatting to them, and I just had the idea in my head that people in Sweden were super open and super chatty and always said hi. That is not the case in Stockholm, okay? Maybe this should be a myths about Stockholm video, because I'm basically talking about Stockholm. Because, yeah, that's just not the case. People in Stockholm are not chatty. They don't just want to have an open conversation with you. They don't necessarily want to say hi all the time, even if you are serving them at a cafe, which I think is just insane to me, especially coming from like a British culture, which is very chatty and very high, very open and very polite. Swedish people are polite, yes, but they're just not so chatty and not so open, which is totally fine, but that is just what the culture is like, and that is a myth I'm busting, because it's not true. People aren't chatty in Stockholm. People don't want to talk. Honestly, people don't want to talk, and people don't really want to make new friends, usually. That is usually the case. And then my next myth is that not everyone is blonde in Sweden. You would think that everyone has blonde hair and blue eyes, but that is not true actually. There are lots of brunettes in Sweden, and lots of different nationalities and different cultures and different races. So that's really exciting, and I just feel like it's a bit of a misconception that everyone has blonde hair and blue eyes. I happen to have blonde hair and blue eyes, but lots of my cousins are actually brunette, I will have you know. So I mean, if you like blonde hair and blue eyes, Sweden is definitely the place. There are lots of those people, but not everyone from Sweden has blonde hair and blue eyes. Another myth is that it is dangerous. Lots of people have said that Sweden is actually a really dangerous place to live, and that is not true. Sweden is still one of the safest places to live in the world if you actually do research it and Google it. So I'm not really sure why this is a myth. I think it's because there is a lot of crime in certain areas of Stockholm, specifically, but if you are not in those areas, then it is a very safe place to live. And I think this is because the government in Sweden and how they run it, they seem to put all of these people who might be considered a bit dangerous in one specific area altogether, so it makes it obvious that that area is going to be very dangerous because all of those people are put there in that area. Maybe if they, you know, spreaded it out a bit, it wouldn't be the case, but then I don't know, it's complicated. But overall, Sweden, Stockholm is a very safe place to live. I haven't felt in danger there in the whole time I have lived there, and I feel very, very lucky about that. And I just feel like it's very safe country, and you can trust a lot of people. And then my next myth is equality. Obviously Sweden is like thriving in that area, like it's doing really well compared to a lot of other countries. The equality with men and women is pretty amazing compared to lots of places, but it's not super equal yet. We still have a long way to go, but if you want to live in more of an equal country, then Sweden is your place, you know. The girls, you have to pay for your own meals, and the bathrooms are usually unisex. That's the life in Sweden. I'm like joking about the meals thing, but I'm also not. It's actually a thing. And now I'm just going to list some truths about Sweden, which you might think are myths, but they are actually true. And number one is that the taxes are high. The taxes are pretty high, yes, but obviously you live an amazing life. Don't want to complain about taxes, but they are high. And number two, English is spoken so often, especially in Stockholm. Everybody speaks English and they actually enjoy speaking English. So that is great if you are English speaking, or if you are coming from a different country and you are worried about learning so much Swedish, then you don't have to worry too much because everyone speaks English. But also, it's amazing to actually learn the language of the country that you are living in, of course. And number three is that it's so cold in winter, and this is definitely true. It can get to -15 even in Stockholm. So Sweden is very cold in winter, but they also have beautiful summers. That is something I love about Sweden, is that the seasons are really amazing and really different. There are 4 seasons, and I love that. So those were my myths about living in Sweden / Stockholm predominantly, because that is where I live, that's what I know best. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Do let me know down below. I'm gonna link my other videos about Sweden in the description if you want to watch those, and let me know what you want to know and what you want to see next. If you have any questions, just write them in the comments. I'm always happy to chat, and I'm going to see you in the next video. Have a beautiful day, week, month, life, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!